Full panel with me now. Mark Short, chairman for the Advancing American Freedom. Erin Maguire, Republican strategist. Linda Tran, former senior advisor to Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. And Yemisi Egbuwale, Democratic strategist. All right, guys, let's talk about this. How did that debate go? Why is Sliwa still in it? Does he need to still be in it? Who's winning and losing? I'm going to start with you, Yemisi.
Nobody needs to be in it except for Zoharn Mamdani. He completely outpaces both of them. Sliwa gets to stay. This is America. This is a democracy. The Republican gets to stay in the race. But he also gets to watch Zoharn Mamdani claim the victory. Look, Zoharn doesn't even need to show up to a debate. He doesn't need to do interviews. He's continuing to do that. He's going to walk far and away with this. I'm so glad that Adams and Zoharn have done the enemies to lovers trope. It's my favorite part of a book. But none of this matters anymore. It's like you just want to tell an ex, we're done. We've all moved on. Please let this go.
Mark, is it that simple? I mean, you're the only guy. I'm going to let you hold your own. Is it that simple? I mean, people in New York still, the people that I've spoken to this week, they were like, we're not sure it was between Cuomo and Mamdani. We're not that sure where it's at.
I think the over-under is still double digits on this, and I don't know if they're betting at it. Cuomo was betting at the game last night, but look, I think that Mamdani is going to win this in a walk, and I think that he's going to be a gift for Republicans after that, as he tried to have the government take over grocery stores in New York and continue your assault on the NYPD. It's going to be a gift for Republicans, but he has the energy, and he's electrified his base, and he's going to win by a significant margin.
So some people look at this as the next wave, Linda, of the Democratic Party. Is this a sign to where Democrats should go, knowing that they lost the election with Kamala and don't really have a firm direction for the future?
Well, you're from New York, so you won't be surprised to hear me say that things that happen in New York don't necessarily reflect the rest of the country. So
they don't? Excuse me.
Well, I think that there are definitely some lessons to be learned from this campaign, and he's obviously been very innovative and on the cutting edge when it comes to social media engagement and using different kinds of vehicles to get his message out. I think it's really clear that you also have to take all of this with a grain of salt, because what happens in New York and what plays in New York, people like Andrew Cuomo, by the way, wouldn't necessarily play well in other Democratic communities.
Now, Erin, some people are just saying that by Curtis staying in the race, he's basically helping Mamdani win. Do you agree with that, or you think we're
The poll numbers would indicate that if Sliwa dropped out, that Cuomo would do better. However, not enough to beat Mamdani, and I do think that Mamdani wins this race. Also, I am a Republican, and I would never call for the Republican to drop out of the race here. It was clear that there was a bit of just giving away by the Republican Party in New York on this primary. They didn't put up anybody. They didn't really have a big primary in this. Sliwa got it, which I get. It's New York City. The opportunity for a Republican to win in New York City was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's a very different dynamic. It's a very hardcore left progressive dynamic as the base in that city. So for a Republican of any stripe or color would have been an exceedingly difficult task. So I would never tell a Republican to drop out, because Andrew Cuomo can't be the other option either. That man filled nursing homes with COVID positive patients and killed countless numbers of New Yorkers, let alone the numbers of jobs that he killed in the state. As a New Yorker myself, and one who roots for the only team that plays in the great state of New York, the Buffalo Bills, the rest play in New Jersey. This is a state that needs a governor and representation that represents people not just in Manhattan and the lower part of New York City, but people like Monroe County, where I come from, or Wayne County, or Buffalo, Erie County, because it is a big, beautiful, diverse state that has been decimated by Democrats.
So I want to pull up a full screen, because Cuomo was on a radio show this morning, and I want to get your reaction to this, if we have that full screen. With the dire picture of Mamdani mayoral, Cuomo placed the voter. So basically he was on a radio show and he said that if Mamdani, well, the host said if Mamdani was in charge, that if 9/11 happened, that would be an uncomfortable thought for them. And they kind of laughed and joked about it. But there's been a lot of contention in this race, right? It's not just about one thing. It's about multiple things, about how Mamdani responds to people asking him questions about Israel. It's about how Mamdani responds to many things. You're rolling your eyes.
I'm so over this hand wringing. He has come so far from where he first started. He sat with Martha McCallum on Fox and he looked into the camera. He apologized to law enforcement. Last year, this man was pushing for defund the police. He is staring governance down the eye, and he's actually moving to the center. And for a lot of moderates, it's actually looking hopeful for somebody that when we first looked at him, it was very DSA. I think he's going to have to work with Kathy Hochul. He's going to have to work with City Council, and we're going to have to move past a lot of the stances that he had when he started this race.
But even the stances, hear that a lot over the years, is basically trying to pretend he's a moderate when he still can't condemn Hamas. He still has his biggest supporters being AOC and Bernie Sanders. This is not a mainstream Democrat. This is a radical left-wing Democrat.
This is somebody who's very progressive, who is moving at least even 0.5%. I would never say he's a moderate.
Not just 0.5%. You just said he's moved an enormous amount.
Well, an enormous amount when it comes to criminal justice and law enforcement. If you started at defund the police and you end sitting on a set with Fox News apologizing to law enforcement, and you're also keeping the police commissioner that Kathy Hochul put in, I would say that's major steps.
2 points. One, if you listen to that interview with Martha, he never actually says, I'm sorry. He does the BS, which is, I apologize, but. It was like a bad Real Housewives reunion when they're just trying to get past the part where Andy Cohen asks the next question. It's not serious, and he still wants things like free buses. Ask Kansas City, Missouri, who had free buses, how that went. They essentially called them moving homeless shelters. And so ask them how that goes and see how that works in New York. His progressive policies are still catastrophic for the city. Even if large amount or small amount, he's moved less away from crazy. That doesn't help the city.
All right, guys, we got to leave it there. I know this